I'm sure we've all had our fill of weeding out the bad to preserve the good. And there's a real battle going on right now between the good plants, the ones from Delaware, and the bad plants, the non-native ones. And so far, the native plants are losing. For decades, people have tried to stop the spread of this invasive species. Now, cuts in Delaware's budget may make it tougher to control. And that's where science may be able to aid in this battle. From WHYY's Health and Science Desk, Carrie Grenz shows us how.
To say that Phragmites is successful as an invasive plant is an understatement. The plant is everywhere.
It's one of the most invasive species up here in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Phragmites is a reed that lives in marsh areas. It's called an invasive species because it originated in Eurasia and migrated to North America centuries ago.
There are still no solution to solve the invasiveness of this particular plant. But our understanding is that if we understand how this plant is that invasive or how this becomes invasive, we'll try to kind of disarm it.
Professor Bass and his laboratory team made significant headway recently in this direction. It turns out that the way the invasive Phragmites wipes out competitors is by secreting a chemical from its roots. Bacteria in the soil then transform this chemical into a toxin that kills only native species.
The way it actually kills other plants is by triggering a suicidal cascade.
Native plants absorb the toxin and die, leaving room for the invader to advance. The plants are seemingly helpless, but humans have been able to push back against Phragmites.
What you see behind us would be an example of a first-year treatment of Phragmites.
These brown stalks are the dead remains of Phragmites after the state sprayed a pesticide over the area last year.
What you see is the old canes, which were fully green last fall. You know, the 10 to 12 foot high Phragmites, monotype situation that came in over the years and displaced all the native plants that were here for centuries and centuries, like the salt marsh cordgrasses, cattails, that type of thing.
Across the road, Jones points out property that has had years of remediation.
This is what we would be looking for from wildlife management purposes, where we have a diversity of plants, and generally that translates into diversity of wildlife.
Muskrats, egrets, and other animals find it difficult to live and eat where Phragmites is the only plant around. Chris Roberts hated to see the plants and wildlife on his property give way to a wall of Phragmites.
We have about 800 acres of marsh, and we've had an extensive Phragmites problem for years.
Roberts and the Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control have teamed up for decades to control the spread of Phragmites. He's part of a cost-share program with the state.
We've been able to control the Phragmites with the timing and application of just a very safe chemical. It's kind of like Roundup, and it just targets the Phragmites when we spray it at a certain time of year.
Roberts went from spraying 300 to 400 acres per year down to 100.
Now we have the Phragmites under control, and we have some blue bent coming back, we have some pipeweed coming back, and it's just working very well for us.
While the money lasts, the governor has put funding for the cost-share program on his budget chopping block this year. Chris Roberts says even if he doesn't get money from the state to control Phragmites on his property, he will continue to spray it. Now to DNREC, shrinking budgets are nothing new. Bill Jones says he's cut back on how much DNREC sprays on public land. There were 11,000 acres sprayed in the 1990s. 2,000 acres were sprayed last year.
Carrie, this is a nasty plant. You mentioned the toxins will kill native plants. Will it kill all the plants?
Good question. So Professor Bass at the University of Delaware is screening plants to try and find those that are resistant to the toxin, because Phragmites leaves that toxin behind in the soil, making what he calls the soil sick. So if he can find plants that are resistant, then they would be good candidates for repopulating that area after Phragmites is removed.
I'm pretty sure I have this in my own backyard. How extensive is it in Delaware?
You probably do. It's very extensive. Bill Jones from DNREC says, a few decades ago, it covered about 30 to 35,000 acres across Delaware. But through his spraying program, he's been able to control it, keep it back to about half that number.
All right, very interesting. Carrie Grenz, thank you very much.